but I can't tell the audience that. So you're on stage doing sketches that they weren't for me. And to be fair, most of my stuff, very little of what I come up with was in that show. Very little. Maybe like one sketch. And so you're on stage in front of people and you're telling them that this is your sense of humor. And I found that, I don't mean this to sound harsh to the boys, but I found that mortifying because it wasn't my sense of humor. I definitely learned from that whatever I did on stage, it had to be what I thought was funny.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy and life with yours truly, Michael Kahan. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Today's guest is hilarious. He has such wonderful stories and a unique perspective on the craft and industry. This was a lot of fun. Luke is engaging, thought-provoking, and honest. All the tools for a fantastic chat. Okay, cool. Let's get into it. Luke McQueen is an award-winning stand-up comedian, writer, and actor who you've seen on The Moth Club, Comedians Giving Lectures, The Stand-Up Sketch Show, and of course, Roast Battle. Luke has also written and starred in a number of short films over the years, with his performance in Last Dates receiving an honourable mention at the LOCO Film Festival, and his film Trevor receiving a special praise the following year. More recently, Luke was cast for a small role in a Nicolas Cage movie, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, and he just wrapped up filming a starring role in Hostages, a debut feature from director Jim Owen. Luke is currently on tour, and he will be in Melbourne for the Comedy Festival, performing his hit show, Comedian's Comedian. It sounds hilarious, and we chat about it in this chat. Check it out before they sell out. And as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, and we chat about someone putting things in his football boots, directing and acting, his many comedy pranks, Edinburgh and long tour runs, forgiving your enemy, pressure, not being invited on the Comedian's Comedian podcast, and making a show about it, plus plenty more. Before we get into this epic chat, I'd love it if you would subscribe to the podcast, like, follow, and comment. You know the drill. It really helps the podcast grow and helps me lock in amazing guests like this one. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, cool. Let's get into it. I hope that you remember this, but I heard on a podcast or read somewhere that someone was stealing your football boots and putting stuff in them. Do you remember this? And I'd love to know who this person was. Did you ever discover it? What happened? Tell me everything.
I know exactly what you're talking about. This was crazy, and I know I have told my flatmate now. I didn't tell him at first because I think he'd just moved in. But I live on like the ground floor flat, and outside my bedroom, there's like a balcony area, and it's like there's sort of like a wall and an open space. So basically, you can jump over into the balcony if you want. And I mean, I've done it sometimes if I've locked myself out. And I was coming home. I come home a couple of times, and I leave like my old football boots just in the balcony because, like, they're just dirty, and you know it feels like they're fine out there.
Yep.
Yeah, but I was coming home. I come home one day, and one of the boots was just sat on the balcony top.
Yeah.
Which was strange. And I kind of just thought it was my flatmate being, sort of just being weird or pranking me or whatever. And then it happened a few more times. And one time there was like things in it, like an apple core, like an eaten,
So
like
random.
just the core of an apple, like perfectly placed. So obviously I thought that's weird. And I kind of thought, yeah, like my flatmate's a bit of a liar. So I thought it's probably just him. And then, and then one night I was, in bed, and he wasn't, he was staying somewhere else that night. So I was on my own. And at about 11 p.m., I just heard like a sort of a noise outside. But where I live, like, some spicy things do happen. It's a really nice area. But when I first moved in, actually, um, someone just graffitied the window. Like literally the first week was living there. Someone literally walked past. I was in the flat. They just graffitied the window.
And you saw it, or you saw it after?
But yeah, I was literally there. Me and my friend that I was living with, we were like, where have we moved to? This place is insane.
Yeah.
So it's quite rare, obviously, for something like that to happen. It turns
Yeah.
out, I think it was just like, it wasn't even like a sort of scary person. It was just some like posh kid, like in the area, like putting his signature around everywhere. I think he got caught eventually.
Apple calls. So Apple calls is his signature. Would he go around? Was this his ultimate pranks? Go and
Yeah,
put Apple
exactly,
calls.
exactly. And now I've got the Apple Core guy. So I heard a crash at about 11 p.m. and but I sort of didn't think much of it. I kind of thought, I don't know what that is, but it's possibly nothing to do with my flat. And then
Yeah.
literally I went to sleep and 2 hours later, I heard like 100% there is someone or something in my balcony, which means since that crash, that person or thing has been there for 2, 3 hours. Like my balcony is like, that is next to where I'm sleeping. And then I was terrified. I had to ring my mate who lives in America because I was too scared. I actually I messaged the police because I thought there's someone there.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't there?
There must have been because the thing is, you sort of like afterwards, you sort of basically, I rang my mate and because the police said, well, do you know there's someone there? I said, well, no, I'm not going to open the curtains because I'm terrified. Because if I open the curtains, they're literally there. That person's there.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes
So I
it
rang
more
my
real.
mate, and on the phone, I did it because yeah, I thought, well, if he knows my address, and if someone's there, whatever, he can call the police. But no one was there. But it couldn't have been a fox because whoever was there was putting my football boots on the balcony and placing things inside. Like, there's no way that's a fox. So
So
then
you,
afterwards, I put a camera in, and it's not happened since. But no, I've never found out who it was.
so wasn't
But
this like, yeah.
the camera's been up, and there used to be loads of plants there. That I then took the plants down because I just thought like someone said it was a stupid thing to do because the plants almost would stop someone from climbing over, but it didn't stop them. So I thought, get rid of all the plants, put a camera up so you can see everything. But before, when the camera was up, there was this guy walking past who would just yank the flowers, just yank them out of the flower bed, and then just chuck them in the street. So this was happening for ages before we put the cameras up, and then we were like, "What is going on? Why do our flowers keep on ending up in the street?" And it was just like this sort of really normal looking bloke, like almost like in his sort of work clothes, like a nice sort of suit, really aggressively taking the flowers out like a psychopath and just chucking them in the
Yeah.
street. So he was caught on camera, but I said, you don't really know what can you do about that?
Can you put like a sign? But then if you put the sign, then it'll probably attract some. Like you're right. What do you? It's so there's just so much happening. Do you
It
feel
is
safe?
scary.
Are you still in this place?
Yeah, I'm still there. I mean, yeah, I am still there. It is fine. It is fine, I think.
I'm glad.
But I think
I'm.
what I sort of think what was probably happening, that someone was probably sleeping there, which is quite
in
scary.
in your.
Probably probably it's probably maybe a homeless person or something. That someone was jumping over, thinking I'll sleep here for the night, and for some reason leaving an apple core in my football boot.
Do you? I have so many questions. Perhaps this is the stupidest of the questions. Do you still leave your football shoes out, or do you want to leave it out and then get on camera so you're aware, like kind of like cheese and drawing in the mouse?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I leave it out, but inside I've got traps, so they pick it up. No, I've totally cleared the space actually. There's a chair out. I've left a chair out there. So I've given them a place to sit. Maybe I
You're a
should
very
remove the
generous
chair.
guy. You should just say
Well,
like
it's supposed
say
to be,
si There you go.
I was going to say like it's supposed to be like, yeah, a place for me to sort of go and chill like when it's nicer, but I don't really use it actually.
Yeah, I don't
Weirdly,
know if
I've
you
made it
can
really,
anymore.
but to be fair, it was really dirty. I wasn't really. given it much take. It was really, I just sort of left stuff out there. It was a bit gross, but since I've cleaned it, now they don't really go in there. Maybe that's the key. You've got to keep this stuff like well looked after, and they don't think it's just some sort of abandoned place that they can chill in.
That's a hack for life. Do you think
Yeah.
that it's karma for all the pranks that you've played? I've seen quite a few of them, which we can discuss. Is it karma for
Yeah.
all the wonderful pranks that you've done?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's Stuart Goldsmith. Maybe it's him that's doing it.
Oh, let's pigeonhole Stuart because we've got a lot to discuss about this guy. We've both got Stuart stories, so
Yeah.
I don't really. Actually, while I was talking about the pranks, I saw a couple the other day, and these were hilarious. The Frankie Boyle, I call it incident. I showed my wife this, and then I watched yesterday about the Russian translator. You can explain to the audience if you want. Yeah, just maybe give a bit of like a brief like summary of what maybe the Frankie Boyle one incident was, and then I've got so many questions about this and why you did it.
Well, I was reading this book by Stuart Lee, and in the book he says, you've got to find your audience, basically. Um, so this was a while ago. So I thought, well, yeah, that's what I've got to do. So the first thing I did was I just sort of went door to door and just knocked on people's doors and explained to them that I'm a comedian. Asked them if they wouldn't mind me just sort of performing some jokes for them, and then trying to get them to sign up to my mailing list, basically. And that wasn't really that successful. It wasn't really the right setting to perform comedy. So then after that, um, I did this other thing where I was sort of flyering all day for this show I was doing at this pub, but it was during the World Cup. So when I got to the pub, I thought everyone was there to watch me because I've been, flyering all day. But
Yeah,
they were actually there to watch the football. But I didn't realize that, so I sort of turned the football off. Uh, and then
but
and then
that wasn't.
that's when I realized, huh?
Oh, was it not like acted at all? Was that actually, or was this
No,
part of the bit?
I thought they were there for me. So I turned the football off and started to perform. But yeah, they were there for the World Cup. Then the Frankie, and then obviously I was getting quite frustrated because I was like, well, how do you get your audience? It's just like it's going to take ages. So I thought, well, I will just steal somebody else's. So I did this. I arranged this venue where I basically flyered, but told everybody that it was Frankie Boyle, like a secret gig, but saying, it's Frankie Boyle. And we
Yep.
packed it out, like 300 people there in this venue, all really excited for Frankie. But I just thought, well, when I go out, they'll be a bit annoyed that it's not Frankie, but then I'll start performing my comedy, and hopefully they just decide that they like me instead. Um, but they didn't.
Okay, I got so many questions. These are both on YouTube. If I can find them again, I'll put them in the episode notes. But I thought he was doing a bit of a bit because pretty much everyone walked out during the Frankie Boyle one. How do you deal with that? Because you looked very composed. Internally,
Mm.
are you like dying? Like, how do you like play to it? Because you're being recorded as well. How do you like bring the comedy alive? Because you've now used it as external content.
Yeah. Well, you just have to, you just have to be in the moment, and you can't change what's happening, and just use it. That's,
Mm.
I mean, it's obviously, like the dream scenario is that all those people who were excited about seeing Frankie Boyle afterwards would just be like, my fans. But that didn't happen. So then you sort of deal with the situation that is happening, which is people sort of walking out and like getting a bit annoyed. And then you sort of realize, well, that's actually quite funny as well. So you just sort of sit in it. And this stuff is, it's funny retrospectively as well. So sometimes it's not for the people in the room. It's
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I also admire you because it looked quite tense and you could like cower in a sense, but you handled it really well, especially if people are potentially annoyed and angry. did you like run through scenarios beforehand if it didn't go well? Or was the plan will go well, they might be a little bit annoyed, but I'm still gonna perform and do my thing?
I only had a plan A, which was that it would go really well. It didn't occur to me that it didn't occur to me that people wouldn't enjoy it. Um, so yeah, and then after that, like I say, you just sort of go with it. And I was just
And
sort of
what was
pleading with them really to enjoy it, but that probably wasn't. Yeah, it was got a bit desperate, I suppose.
what was it like when they all left? Does it impact your confidence? Because you can now see it as a bit, and you can see how it's quite funny now. Maybe in the moment you may have not seen it.
The funny thing was about that was that I was in Edinburgh. I did that in Edinburgh, and I was doing a show every day. Um, and this show was it was called Now That's What I Live McQueen, and you know that was my show, and it was sort of it was going okay. But I remember that day there was two people in the audience of my show who just hated it, like hated it. And they were like the front row looking at each other, just being like, oh my God, we hate this guy so much. And then when I walked out to the Frankie Boyle audience, the first two people I saw were the people that was in my show earlier. And they just looked at each other and they couldn't believe that it was me again.
That's so great.
I know that was quite a beautiful moment. I did like that. Yeah.
And do things like that, because obviously, like, you've built your name up now, people know who you are, you've got nominations and awards and all of these things. In those moments, are you in like hustle mode? It's Edinburgh, you're there for a while, there's so much cost, there's so much mental energy. Is it on to the next one? Like, what's the chitter chatter like after something like that?
Um, I don't like you don't you know that you don't know what you're doing really at any point. Like you're just sort of learning and I think I think probably that Edinburgh it felt like there was quite interesting things happening. I was doing some quite interesting things. Um, in a way, you probably have a sort of false idea of where you actually are at that point and what people do think of you, um, and your sort of status and profile. Because back it was a while ago that, so there wasn't really social media wasn't a massive thing back then. So I would say in the moment I felt like I was doing some quite interesting things, but when you sort of look back now, you're like, I don't know. Actually, I think people were probably more interested in the other stuff. I don't know.
I when I saw those I've seen all the other clips as well. I thought it was hilarious and planned, and you did that, and you were this master of tension, and that's how it's come
Yeah,
across. So when I saw that, that was very funny, and so I also think that's like credit to you that you had a vision, and perhaps it didn't go to plan, and you handled it really well.
yeah. Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I love that. I love that stuff, and I sort of creating narratives in front of the public is exciting, and and yeah,
I
having an
really
idea that
like
you love and just committing to it.
yeah. I was watching a few of your things, but like one thing that there's so many different things because I love that sense of humor and I love like the tension, the potential awkwardness as well. I also watched, and you only did 3 episodes, and I'm annoyed for you because I want more. Is it called The Person Behind the Celebrity, where you're like the
Yeah,
host, but
yeah, yeah,
speak,
yeah,
you don't speak
yeah,
to the celebrity. The celebrity's there, and they're not allowed to speak. It's kind of got like
yeah,
Eric Andre vibes, but with your
yeah,
authenticity. Can you
yeah,
tell? And I'll also put that in the episode notes because that was like I actually burst out laughing. I don't normally like
yeah.
burst out
Thank you.
laughing when I. Could you tell me how that
Yeah,
came about?
I can. I mean, this is like one of the things that I'm like so frustrated about, really, because um, I had that idea, the premise that you just described, is a chat show where you speak to the person sat behind the famous guest. And I only know famous comedians, so my options are limited. But we recorded a couple online, me and my mate Simon, sort of created it together. And the idea that we had back then was just to make a couple and sort of sell it as proof of concept, really. But at that stage, we had a sort of crossroads because we could have just carried on doing them online ourselves and trying to sort of build an audience for the show. But the slight problem with that is that not everybody is willing to be there for free. So the sound guys always want money, and fair enough. Um, but there is no budget. You're just making the stuff and hoping it becomes profitable at some point. And that's quite risky and difficult, especially if you don't have the money to put into it. Um, so so we made a couple, and then we decided to try and sell it to Channel 4 because they were doing like some online series stuff, and they really liked it. So so they agreed to make three with us. And I said to them at the time, I said, look, this kind of show, it only works if you make loads. Like we need to sort of build an audience for it. So, really we need to be making sort of minimum sort of six, but really sort of more like 12. And they were a bit like, yeah, don't worry. We're just going to sort of test it out of this three, work out what the show is, and then really go for it. And so that's really what happened. And it's really frustrating for me because had we not have, even though I really like what we made with Channel 4, had we not have gone with Channel 4 and just built it up online, now you look at these shows that exist online, these sort of short form chat shows, like they're massive and
Yeah.
they've got audience. And I think our idea was really, pretty solid. It was, funny. Sort of, I love that stuff. I love
Yeah,
what we
same.
made, but it died because Channel 4 were like, you know, they don't really understand how to make successful online content. They don't understand that you need to just, it's like when Monty Python, I know it's a slightly different time, but when Monty Python started, the commissioner, I think, gave them 13 episodes. And if you're not going to get an audience with 3 episodes. And I just think it's kind of crazy that the channels don't understand that.
Yeah, there's like this old school thinking, which we're seeing with digital and people watching TikTok and YouTube's becoming more popular than like normal TV. And that was the
Yeah.
previous model. Things are very slow to change. When you say like frustration, because the screenwriter and me, there'd be nothing. Is this from an IP perspective? Do they own the show and you're not allowed to do something else? Or
No,
can you?
I think we probably could now. I think there was definitely something in the contract that said that we couldn't straight away. I think we probably could now, but I suppose you sort of think, I suppose, well, maybe we should, like maybe we should just do some more. But I think you sort of think, oh, I think we tried that. It feels like we've tried it, but yeah, really, I don't know if we have. Maybe we should just do it. In fact, maybe after this, I'll
I
give Simon a call and say, should we just carry on?
I I I really think, and they're not long. You can. I know
Yeah.
TikTok's like a minute model, but you could also put them on TikTok. I don't know if you have, and
No.
things like. Do you say you have?
No, we haven't actually. No.
Things like that. Things go viral, and it's hilarious. People like Eric Andre's kind of like paved the way. You can see it, and it's such a it's a unique premise where you get the famous
Yeah.
person on, and they're not
Yeah.
allowed to talk. That's already funny in itself.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
idea
Yeah.
comes from
Yeah.
itself. I really want you
The
to do
slight
it. I think
problem,
it's
I
good.
tell you one problem we had with the Channel 4 show was that again,
Mm.
like they wanted us to get massive celebrities, and I don't, it's really hard until the show exists. It's really hard and we sort of produced it, so we were kind of that was sort of our job to book the guests, and I knew I
Yeah.
could get comedians. But the slight problem is you get people like James Acaster, and James has got like huge, you know, uh, he's got a huge fan base and also quite a obsessive fan base. So they tune in for this comedy show to see James, but James isn't allowed to talk. And this comedian they don't know is doing all the talking and also sort of taking the piss out of their hero.
Yeah.
I
I
mean, to
think
his fans, hated it.
I'm surprised to hear that because he's kind of the master as well of doing like funny faces and then like pulling back.
He
I'm
was
a fan
great.
of
Yeah.
him.
I
Yeah,
think if anything, that you slightly get to see a different side of him. It's funny. Like as a fan, I
yeah,
think it actually
yeah,
works in his favor. But so I don't
yeah,
know, like
yeah.
how
And
that
he was great.
translated.
I think if we did it again, we'd try and do it with non-comedians, but just a slightly trickier one to book. But yeah,
I loved. I saw with James and Lou as well, and I just thought it was
yeah,
so like Lou really wanted to talk, and then not being able to
yeah,
talk
yeah,
also made
yeah,
it funny. These type, even though this is unique, these type of shows do well on YouTube, and I know you said like build your audience so
yeah.
that there's money and stuff. But the like going back to the screenwriter and me, how frustrating is it where you kind of get greenlit, and then they potentially promised you more episodes, and then you get
Mm,
in your mind, just the three, even though it's something you're obviously proud of and it's a great concept. How do you kind of, especially at the time, mentally deal with that? Because so many guests have spoken about being in limbo. What do we do? How do we move this forward? And they've spoken about how mentally it can be hard and you can give up and then not really want to do
mm.
things like that. Have you had any thoughts around that?
Well, it's frustrating because you feel like um, you feel like it's sort of failed in a way. And I think what was frustrating about that in particular is that I knew that it wasn't given a proper chance. Like, and I really thought this will work. This is funny. Like, we just have to. Literally, the only thing we have to do is make more. That's it, and it works. Um, and obviously, there's lots of people at the channel, so it's definitely really frustrated. And I think the main sort of commissioner there, I can't remember his name now, but I didn't speak to him at any point, but he was obviously the one that didn't decide against it. And I remember actually, and I was sort of fuming with him, even though I'd never met him, but I knew that he was the one that stopped it. And I just thought it just seemed so stupid to me to spend money on this. It's like throwing money in the bin. It was never going to work with 3 episodes. So I remember being fuming with him, and then I was watching David Quirk's show at Surrey Theatre. You know David Quirk? He's like this Australian comedian, like a really sort of sweet soul. And he did this show about basic, a big part of it was basically sort of forgiving your enemy. And it's so
Interesting.
funny he did the show that night because I went to the bar afterwards and this commissioner was in the bar. And that is the only time I've ever seen this guy. And if it wasn't for David's show, I think I would have gone for him a little bit, like, sort of not like physically, but verbally. I think I would have been a bit like, what the hell? But because of David's show, I was so nice to this man.
That's
And I
amazing.
was like, yeah, it wasn't a word. I was like, oh, thank you for the opportunity. It was so cool to make it. I'm really proud of what we did. And I suppose, yeah, probably David saved me a little bit that night. But then also afterwards, I was a bit like, why was I so nice to that guy?
But credit where credit is due. You could, and you can be like, you're a moron. What are you thinking? You've got no idea. But one, you're never going to work for that channel again. And two, he probably
Well,
will
I am
remember
actually.
that.
I'm trying to work with them all the time.
Yeah. You know, he would probably remember that or the idea of that conversation as well. And especially if it didn't go well, like you're thanking him.
Yeah,
People
yeah,
have egos. It goes quite far. I think that's massive growth in that regard. And you can thank David as well. How do you go
yeah, yeah,
from,
yeah.
because you've had a few of these, and to me, I see this as huge successes. But the writer can be like, "Oh, I didn't get a second season, or I didn't get a third season, or it was only 3 episodes, or whatnot." Kind of the
Yeah.
writer's curse. But I saw an article, and I didn't quite understand this. But in 2018, BBC Three made a series of pilots with you, and they said these pilots did not go to plan, but they decided to air them. What does not go to plan mean in this regard?
That was the premise of the series. So the premise was that we would make 3 pilots that would fail by design. So the BBC saying that was, part of the show. Um, but I, obviously really committed to that idea, and I think even when the show was going out, I set up a sort of petition to try and get it banned because the character was like, like this is a
Yeah.
disaster. It can't go out. Um, So yeah, that was just part of the premise.
Oh, interesting, because it was interesting language. So then, like, so with the vampire show, I've forgotten the name, Britain's Hidden Vampire Crisis. I saw there were 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So was that part of that
No,
thing?
so basically it was three episodes that were like, it was three different pilots. So the vampire one was, you know, the idea that would be a pilot of a sort of vampire sort of documentary show. And then they were sort of like parodies. And then the second episode in the UK at that time, there was lots of comedians doing sort of travel shows with their family. So we did. So, there's this particularly famous one called Travels with My Father with Jack Whitehall and his dad. So
Mm.
the second episode was this show called Sex with My Father, where me and Mark Silcox, who played my dad, went to Amsterdam and just sort of learned about sex together. Um, he ends up giving me an orgasm by accident,
That was
and
so funny.
yeah. And then the third episode was like a sort of dating show called The Loop of Love, where all these girls were sort of competing for me, but I'm obviously playing a sort of character, a version of myself, and yeah. So they were all like individual ideas, but then they all failed because the character was a disaster. Um, yeah.
Hilarious. With the Sex with Your Father, also watched that one. That was so funny. Also because he obviously wasn't your father. Can that continue? Because was that also scripted, or was that like?
They're sort of semi-scripted. I mean, they're not. It's sort of unscripted, really. But you have obviously setups and you have beats. With with Mark Silcox, who played my dad, who's like this amazing comedian, like so unique, and like but he's really low energy.
Yeah.
So he's playing my dad, and I'm sort of saying to him like, you need to be entertaining like the other comedians' parents, like Jack Whitehall's dad and Ramesh's mum, and he's just like, he gives you nothing. And I've done live shows with this guy, and he's just like, I mean, he's so funny. He's like one of the funniest, but his style is incredibly low energy. So we set up this thing where I said, well, look, you need to learn how to do comedy. So here's a book about all the, famous comedies of all time, like Only Fools and Horses and Little Britain and The Office, etc. So his character's reading this book, but then he doesn't really understand comedy properly. So all he does is he just sort of looks at the sort of catchphrases that are in the book and then just repeats them in the public. And there's this one bit, I don't know how big Little Britain is over there, but there's this one
No,
character in Little
it's
Britain that
very
says,
big.
okay, so there's one character that says, I'm the only gay in the village. So there's this one scene where Mark has got his book out and he just says, sort of to himself, I'm the only gay in the village. And there's these two American tourists, but we catch them on the mic and one says to the other, is like, did that guy just say he's gay? It's such a funny moment because and to me that's like the best parts of making those sorts of shows where you are doing something that's scripted basically, but then the members of the public, their reaction to it is just makes it so funny.
And so do things like that, because, with stand up, a lot of stand ups as well, stand up's the goal, but it also can lead into writing, TV opportunities, show opportunities. Is that also like one of the, like if you had a list of goals you want to achieve, is that like one of the driving factors to create shows
Yeah.
like these?
Not so much shows like I like doing that stuff. Um, the sort of narratives of the public, it's a skill that I've got, and I've done lots of it online, and then with that, I, I remember making that show because really, I see myself probably, I sort of see myself more. I think of myself as an actor first, really,
Oh,
because that's
actor
why I got
above
that's yeah, that's
above
why I
stand
got
up?
into comedy. I got into comedy to be an actor. I thought it opened doors for me.
Oh, I had no idea.
Well, I've not sort of not translated that enough, really. I've not shown that enough, even in my my act on stage. It's a it's a character, but it's also like a version of me. So it's not like I'm out there doing a sketch show or a character show. Um, but then when I made that series for the BBC, honestly, I kind of thought, well, the worst thing that will happen now, or like the minimum that will happen now, is that I'll just get a load of acting work and writing work.
Mm.
But then that was stupid because actually that show, the writing is not proper writing, really. It's not like a script. It's like set
Yeah.
pieces, and like you are forming a narrative, um, but you're doing it by improvising, really. You have beats and you have an idea of where it's going to go. And then the performance, it's not like it is acting and it's you've got to stay in character. It's challenging in a different way, but it's not as if someone's watching that and going, all right, we'll put him in slow horses. It's
Yeah.
so it's a funny thing to do because really that kind of when you make a show like that, all you're really doing is telling the industry that you can just do more stuff like that, which which doesn't really get made a lot.
Isn't that interesting with like pigeonholing? Like you see someone dominate
Yeah,
in one role, maybe it's a comedic role, for example, and then they're like, no, I'm actually a serious drama guy or girl. And
yeah,
then they're like, no, we saw you in this and we can't think of
yeah,
you in any other way. You're in this
yeah,
box. How do you
yeah.
deal with that?
Well, it's frustrating, but like, why should it be any different? Like uh, casting directors, commissioners, producers, they can't see what's in my head. Like,
Yeah.
like if people can't see the thing that you think you can do, then why would they think of it? I mean, I have like I have done a load of stuff as well, um, but maybe the most sort of high profile stuff is the stuff I've done with the public. I think, yeah, I heard Jimmy Carr did a show once in Edinburgh. People talk about this like years ago, where he was like, yeah, getting frustrated about being like, well, not pigeonholed, but he wanted to show everyone what he could do. So he did the show where he literally was, I'm not sure if I'm getting this exactly right, but he was a stand-up and then he was like a presenter. So he basically showed everything that he could do within the show.
Oh,
So then
yeah.
afterwards, the industry was like, oh yeah, Jimmy could do that. I saw him do it in the show. Which is sort of annoying that you have to do that, but of course you do because these people don't know, they don't know what you can do until you show them.
I think, and so you're also, I forgot what it's called, but your name was first on the poster of a what looks like a sitcom. So like you've obviously shown that it might be similar, but
Yeah,
I haven't seen the show. So
yeah.
you've obviously like
That was a
shown that
film.
you've
That was a film.
what's it called?
Hostages. Yeah, this is
Yes, yes, yeah,
um, new a directorial debut by a guy called Jim Owen. Is brilliant. And yeah, it's this really cool sort of British indie, low budget film, all
nice.
set in one room basically. And I played the security guard, like sort of inept security guard. I loved doing that. I mean, I filmed something recently that was with the public, and it is exciting. And like I say, you do end up getting some stuff that I'm, really proud of, and it is undeniably sort of funny, I think. But I always enjoy much more having a script and having other actors and going into scenes and like connecting with them and working with them. But it's just so much harder to get that work.
Yes, exactly. But so, given what we've spoken about, like pigeonholing and showing yourself in potentially a different light, you've written a few things as well. And I think I saw somewhere just before about Trevor. Is that,
Yeah.
are you actively trying to like show the world, people, the industry, more of your skills and talents? Is that something, or are you just writing stuff and then if it gets seen, like what's the goal of all of these things? Because I think it's really cool.
I've written loads of it. So Trevor was a short film that I wrote a while ago. I've written a feature film of Trevor, which is probably if you was to say you can do one thing out of all your ideas, it would be Trevor. I'm desperate to make it. It's so, and I'm sure it's so hard to get films made. And, you
Film's
know,
even hard. Yeah.
yeah, but I've got this script. One day that film will get made at some point, so, but I also directed my first short film last year,
Nitpicker?
Nitpicker. So,
Yeah.
I directed that and that's cool. I'm in it as well. So it's an interesting thing because
Nice.
I like it. I think it's good. Um, but yeah, it's an interesting thing, sort of directing something that you're in sort of quite a lot, because afterwards there's a couple of moments where you sort of think, oh, maybe I would have done something a bit different there if I was watching it. But I like it. But but with that, because it's the first thing I've directed, I'm sort of trying to do it properly. So I'm trying to like put it into festivals, and now I'm just sort of waiting to hear back from these festivals. Like some of them are like not going to let me know until September. In my head, I'm like, this is crazy because you just want to put it online so people can see it, and it's like another sort of like, you get into people's heads what you can do. But then also, I don't know what you do with short films online. Really, like, are people really watching short films online? I don't know, really.
You're asking the worst person. I've written quite a few scripts. I've never written a short
Yeah,
film, but short films,
yeah,
from my very basic understanding, it's a great way to be seen, to show your talents, your skills, especially as a director, as an actor,
yeah,
I don't, the writing as well. It's also a way to signal to your agents, managers, the industry as well. And it's not like a
yeah,
4 hour film that they have to watch to see how good you are. But that's just my take.
yeah. Yeah, well, I'm sure I'll put it up. I think I will put it up. Actually, I won't wait for these people to get back to me. But I don't know when I'll put it up or where. Well, probably within the next couple of months, I will put it up, and then people can watch it if they want.
And circling back to what I said before, you know, as we said, pigeonholing, all of that stuff. Did you say this is also a way to be seen in a different light? Is this like an active thing of you? Because, you know, you were at the start portrayed
Yeah,
as the guy that works with. Okay, yeah, tell me.
definitely. It definitely is. The funny thing was, when I made that BBC series, afterwards I had someone speak to me about doing a different show with the public, and I actually said, "Oh, I sort of, I don't want to do too much more of this because, I don't want people to think that's just the only thing I do." I found out afterwards that when I left that meeting, it's like one of the people in the room was like my mate. They sort of just all said to each other, "What the hell was all that about? That's what he does." um, and so I don't know if I make, maybe you just sort of go with whatever, hand you're being dealt with at the time. But yeah, definitely when I made that short film, in my head, it was like, okay, I'm telling people that I'm an actor and I'm a writer. The directing, I loved actually, I loved so much, but I think it's probably even more difficult to get directing work. But yeah, that was definitely the motivation to do it. And also, I thought it was a really cool idea. And yeah,
I love that because, you know, especially from a screenwriter or even actors, not that I would act in something that I've written or understand or spoken about because that would
yeah,
be way easier for me. But people always like, they don't know, like some people that are producers or create the TV shows or the films or the scripts, they can't actually visualize the words. So when you actually go out and create, it allows them to see. It's very interesting. I don't know about you, and there's obviously really talented, amazing people, but in some of the situations I've dealt with, it's like the least creative person in the world, and they read a script and it's like they're not going to get it. They like have to see it. I don't know if you've
yeah,
had
yeah, yeah.
anything
Oh,
like that.
totally. Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. I know it probably sounds like naive, or like, I don't know how it sounds. When I think, I don't know how this sounds, but when I think about the film that I've written, I just, if I was a producer and I read the script, I can't understand why you wouldn't want to make it. I
No,
mean,
that's yeah,
I can understand you reading it and going, "Oh, this probably won't make any money." But that's sort of most films.
yeah.
But I can't understand someone reading it and going and not thinking, "Well, we've got to make this 'cause it's so original and interesting." Um, of course, this has to get made. I hope that doesn't sound arrogant. I don't mean it to sound arrogant.
No.
It's just one of them ideas that I just love it so much, and I would watch if this film was advertised to me, I'd watch it so quickly.
You know, I love that, and I get that as well. That one of my scripts, I think it's really funny, but if someone read it, they probably wouldn't quite get the humor. So I actually need to go and film it
Yeah,
because different type of dialogue.
yeah.
But with another
Maybe that's
script
it.
of mine,
Yes.
oh well, I'm going to compliment what you said. With another script of mine, and I know how it sounds. I think it's an amazing script as well. It's original.
Yeah,
Actually won a writing award. I got a TV developmental
amazing.
deal
Well,
in LA. And
great.
but from other those writing festivals, which seem to be a lot of them seem to be scams where you pay like $200 and then some very
Yeah,
junior person reads it and gives you the most basic notes. But it's so
yeah.
interesting where I had the TV deal and then I'm getting rejected from like half these festivals. Some are saying it's great, some are just being
Wow.
like, and it's just like it just shows. Yeah, I don't even. Yeah, like some people are gonna like it. You're not for everyone. Some people don't get it. It depends. There's so many different factors.
Exactly. I don't know how you do it, but basically what you want, you kind of just want to get this stuff in front of like 100 people. And what I've
Yeah,
been doing is I'm sort of sending it to one person at a time, and then they they get back to me in like 3 months and sort of say they like it, but they can't
done
make
the
it.
same.
Uh,
Yeah,
but really, and we're so careful not to upset everybody. But when you're a creative person, you're getting rejected all the time. I don't really know why we can't just pitch an idea to every single channel and send ideas to every single producer. It should be like a trade fair where
yeah,
you've all got it, like, and then whoever wants it can have it.
I agree. I've done exactly your approach. I've just
Yeah,
done
yeah,
individuals and you want to build the relationships. Maybe there's a little bit of fear, like if you do it once.
yeah,
At the end of the day, what we want is a bidding war. We want like the best producers
exactly.
to be like, no, I want it. No, you, yeah, I don't have the answer,
Yeah,
but I'm learning from you as we go. But you mentioned the rejection side, which is very common, like from stand up, for example, but we'll talk about the acting side. Acting roles are limited. You might get one in 1,000 roles, whatever the ratio is.
yeah.
How do you deal with the rejection side? Like you do an audition, you think it's gone well, maybe it's a role you really like. How do you deal with it and have any stuck with you and hurt you?
Um, I've only stuck with me. Um, hmm. There probably have been so. I mean, you just have so many self tapes, and it's at the stage now when you do them, and you sort of just forget about it almost straight away. Um, I don't. I'm trying to think if there's any that have really hurt me. I mean, I saw Quentin Tarantino say recently, and I wish I didn't see it recently. I wish I would have seen it, 15 years ago, where he just sort of said he learned very quickly because he was obviously an actor at the beginning, and he was going to these auditions, and he said to himself really quickly, "I'm not going to be the person that gets picked." Like he was looking around the room, and he was just like, I'm not the person." And so that's why he started making his own films. And I kind of feel like probably that is probably me because I think I think, again, without, I don't want to come across like I think I can act, but lots of people can, but I haven't been the person that's been picked. I've been picked a bit, like every now and then I get picked, but like you get these, but there's some people that are like constantly, and that's just not really been me. And it's, I think, because that's partly why I'm so desperate to make this film because, you know, um, so how you deal with it, I suppose, is to sort of go, okay, if something like that happens, it's a bonus. But really, what I'm trying to do is make this thing happen myself. And that's the great thing
Yeah,
about doing comedy, and that's why I did it to get into acting, is because you're not waiting for someone to ask you to perform or to give you a
I love
part.
that.
You can just do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so. So, can you tell me like how this started? Did comedy come a little bit later? Was acting the number one goal at school?
Not really. I mean, I did 4 nights at college, and then I had this teacher who was a brilliant teacher. He wasn't like an academic. He was, he was kind of like a proper, like, he was doing the RSC and touring and stuff, and he was a real
What's
sort of
the
thespian. But he
RSC?
just had the
What's
Royal
the RS?
Shakespeare Company.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So he was like, doing the classics and stuff, and he just had to stop doing it because he had a kid, and he was making his money by touring, and his kid was sort of getting upset about all that. So the point is, he was a teacher driven by sort of passion and emotion, not by sort of the academic side. And he was the one that just said to me, um, he referenced Mackenzie Crook, and he said, comedy is a good way. And obviously I was like, quite funny at college, and he said it's a good way to get into acting. So rather than go to drama school, um, and I just thought I really respected. He had like a big influence on me, really. And so I just followed his advice.
That's great. I love it when you can meet someone and they can give you advice and you can actually hear it as well. Like that probably changed your life as well.
Yeah, but yeah. I don't think I would have done. I don't think I'd have been very surprised if I had done comedy without him telling me to. Yeah, because when I started it, I never thought I want to be a comedian. I was always thinking this is terrifying, but I'm performing. I'm on stage, and at some point, I'll be an actor.
That that's awesome. I think that's so great because normally, yeah, I think that's so interesting. When did you do a sketch group? I've written it down somewhere. Gadabout?
Oh, I
Does that
did, but it was like that. That was, it's not really worth talking about. It was a very. I was in it for 6 months, and it was just, the guys I did it with were really nice guys, but we had very, very different. It was so early, and we just tried this thing, and it was never going to work because we had very different senses of humor. But I do think, yeah, if I had my time again, I probably would have tried to do a sketch show, but yeah, maybe with people that were more aligned with my humor, because then you really do. That is what I should have done. That's probably what my teacher meant. To be fair, I should have done a sketch show, or at least a character act.
you
But I
still
didn't. I did
could?
this sort of weird alternative thing. Yeah, I still could. Yeah, yeah, maybe that's what's next. I mean, the show that I'm taking to Melbourne is a little bit aligned in what we're talking about. I wanted to make a show where I could sort of show on stage that I could, it's the writing is a lot. There's a real sort of structure to it, um, and it's definitely a performance. There's definitely, acting involved in this. Probably definitely more than what I've done before. So that was, and that was,
Cool.
yeah, I was conscious of that.
I want to pigeonhole the Melbourne show just well to tie off that point. When I did improv, and I'm no
Yeah.
expert by any means whatsoever, I wasn't a team player. I'm not saying that you weren't, but I learned so
Yeah.
much from people's comedy that I didn't like. It made me
Wow.
better. I don't did you, like,
Wow.
gain
Yeah.
any and you probably helped you with, like, conflicts as well. I know it didn't end up working out, in inverted commas, but do you think that it made you better in any regard, or was it more, "You guys are not in alignment with me, I don't wanna be here," type thing?
The sketch show. Well, I tell you what it did do. It and again, it was very early on, and I don't want it to. This is no criticism to the boys I was working with, but you're on stage, and like I say, we all three of us, we had different sense of humor to each other. So, but I can't tell the audience that. So you're on stage doing sketches that they weren't for me. And to be fair, most of my stuff, very little of what I come up with was in that show. Very little. Um, Maybe like one sketch, and so you're on stage in front of people, and you're telling them that this is your sense of humor. And I found that, I don't mean this to sound harsh to the boys, but I found that mortifying because it wasn't my sense of humor.
No, I
So
get that
so I,
100%.
I definitely learned from that whatever I did on stage, it had to be what I thought was funny, and that was
That's
good
a
to learn
yeah.
early on.
That's an amazing lesson because sometimes we try and be someone else, do different things. So many comedians have told me where they thought they had to be a different comedian or this is funny or this is trending, do this. But then at the end of the
Yeah,
day, seems like the authenticity of one's self or humor, that's where
yeah,
one is able to thrive. And then you put out all this other stuff as well, which is, you. So it's
yeah,
probably and a very important skill that you learn, especially
yeah,
early on as well.
yeah,
And
definitely.
from the Melbourne show, which you've toured previously before, you bring into Australia. It's going to be in the episode notes below, so people in Melbourne can check it out. I think this is a hilarious premise. It's called The Comedian's Comedian, which is reference to Stuart Goldsmith's podcast, which
Yeah.
you also mentioned another one, but you were like half joking, where you said it's like a revenge sort of tour or a revenge show to Stuart. Can you give a bit of a snapshot, and then I'll also berate you with 1,000 questions?
Well, Stuart runs this podcast called The Comedian's Comedian, which is I think I'm sure he definitely interviews Australian comedians and American comedians, but it's particularly big
Yeah,
over here.
I've listened to a lot
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, great. So if people don't know, it's just a podcast where comedians sort of talk about their careers and their process, etc. And he's just done a lot of episodes, and he'd never asked me, so I asked him if I could be on it, and he said no. But then, so what I did is that I used AI to clone his voice. So the show that I'm bringing to Melbourne and I did in Edinburgh is the interview, but I have control of the questions and obviously the answers.
Yeah.
So he's on
That,
stage like he's symbolized as like this mannequin basically with this like sort of disgusting head, and
yeah.
we do the interview. You don't need him. This is the point. You don't need anyone. I can go on any show I want now, and I will.
What's it like for us? We've got Will Anderson. I don't know if you've met him. He's a lovely guy. He's also been on the podcast. He's was called Willosophy. I think it's called something different now. Apologies, I don't remember it. That's kind of like the same podcast. He gets all people in the industry and talks about it. When someone says no to something like that, when they've had that many people, what is your like? Does he give you a reason? Does he like, I hate you, you're shit, or he just says not interested? And then through that, okay, yeah, we'll do part one, and then I'll do part B, C, D, E. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, uh, it's touched on in the show. He does give a reason, yeah, because I phoned him up and I recorded the call. So I phoned him up. So you can hear him responding to my request to be on the podcast. Yeah, I mean, Stuart's he's a diplomatic guy, um, and he has his reasons, but obviously I sort of took it quite personally, and then got my revenge.
is he aware of the show?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And do you know
yeah.
how? Because you've obviously got friends who know him. How has he responded to your show?
I don't know.
Would you invite him, or did you invite him in Edinburgh or England?
Um, yeah. Well, People have definitely been in that know him. I know that. Yeah,
Yep.
I know that.
And last question, because it's hilarious to me. Would you ever, as a grand finale, get him to appear at the end, make your piece, and then you realize like the mannequin transforms and it's him and he appears at the end of the show? Would that ever be something you consider?
I'd love that. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
at the minute, Melbourne at the minute will be the final shows. I don't know but yeah, maybe there's an idea that we do it in London. But I don't know if he would want to be part of that or not. I have no idea. But yeah, it would be, I'd be up for it definitely.
And the last question on that, I don't want to make it too much about Stuart. Because of this show, will he never invite you again, or is the door left open for whatever reasons, or has that bridge sailed? What's it been crossed? What's the saying?
I'd be surprised if he invited me on after this show.
Well, that's hilarious. And how you feeling for Melbourne? We spoke a little bit off air. You've never been
Yeah,
to Australia. Are you excited?
no.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I'm really
Yeah.
excited. I've got some good friends out there. Some good friends with Sam Campbell and Ray Badran. Ray's going to take me to all the best coffee shops. He told me. I'm going to go to Sydney as well afterwards and stay with Ray.
Okay,
So
cool.
yeah, I'm so yeah. It's like you do comedy for a long time and like it can be really hard, but this is definitely one of those things that has happened where you're just like, what an amazing consequence of this choice I've made of my life that I get to go to Australia like with a show, like um, amazing. And I love the show so much. I love performing it still,
Oh, great.
and also it's sort of weirdly like Edinburgh, there's a lot of pressure, and then you do it in the Soho Theatre. But I've since done it in the UK, just around the UK, and the pressure's suddenly off now. And I think that'll be the same in Melbourne
Oh,
because like
cool.
I know the show, so you can really let loose and like almost enjoy it more, performing it more. And yeah, I'm not bored of the show. I love doing it, and yeah, it's like
That's rare because when you do something for a while, you can naturally just not be interested anymore. You want to do something
Yeah,
else, but you're speaking with passion and enthusiasm. You're smiling. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
Back to the pressure side, because to me, this is really interesting. You know, Edinburgh, for example, we alluded to this before, a lot of costs involved, a lot of pressure, time, everything. And there can be a lot of pressure to perform, not, through all the reasons I've just said before. What's it like being at the stage now where the pressure's kind of been lifted? Do you feel you can be more creative? You can enjoy it? And were you able to enjoy
yeah.
it in Edinburgh, for example?
I think in Edinburgh, in I mean, the good thing about this show, and you'll understand this when you see it, it sort of starts without me a little bit. So I can hear the audience reacting to the show before I enter the stage, and that is in some ways relaxing because normally it was a positive reaction. Apart from I did the show in Rotterdam in Holland, and it was so funny because the promoters of this club in Rotterdam had seen the show in Edinburgh and they loved the show, so they were like, "Oh, please come to our." They said ask them to do it in their club, and I got there and it was sold out, which I was like surprised about because like
Nice.
I'm just doing this one show in Rotterdam, but these guys have like built up an audience at this club for a long time and they really trust them. And before I went on, I hadn't really had this thought for whatever reason, but before I went on, I was outside with the owner of the club, and I said to her, "God, I hope they get it." And she just went to me, "Well, they definitely won't. You're just here for us." And she was absolutely spot on. Because then the show started, and it always does, with this phone call. And normally that's getting a nice response, but it was deathly silent, deathly silent. And then I walked on, and normally, you walk on and people are clapping because it's like the person's walking on stage. That's just what happens. They weren't being horrible, but they just didn't understand what was happening. So I don't know if I'm answering your question. I've sort of gone off on a tangent, but yeah. Oh, so in
Totally.
terms of the pressure, so so the pressure's eased a little bit with that reaction at the beginning
Oh, as in
in
you
Edinburgh.
learn from that, it can't be as tough as that? Is that more
Well, no, you
the
just sort of
thinking?
think, well, they're if they're already laughing before I'm on the stage, so that they get it, and so hopefully, and the more you do it, the more you sort of trust the show. But the problem with Edinburgh is that my sort of career, if you like, is over there, and it is like an industry showcase festival, really, like as well as being other things like building an audience or building a show. The industry's there, so every single night there's someone in, really, and so that gives you a lot of pressure. And then Soho Theatre in London, that's sort of where I live. So you're still getting the industry in at the Soho Theatre, but also you're getting just random people in from your life. People that like friends, but then even friends of friends. So that's like another sort of pressure where you're like, oh, it needs to go well tonight because I've got to see this person afterwards. Otherwise I've got to cut
Of
them out of my
course.
life somehow. um, so yeah, and before you go on, yeah, you're a little bit like, here we go again. You're putting your, I mean, I don't know what this stuff does to your body. I do think comedians should be, their bodies should be monitored a little bit. It'd be interesting to see what it does because you're just constantly putting yourself out there, and you need them to react. It's not like if you're doing a play or whatever, where if people don't react afterwards, they can tell you how brilliant it was, and you can just sort of assume they're telling the truth. With a comedy show, they have to react,
Yep.
and um, it's a mad, it is a mad level of pressure to constantly put on yourself and on your body. Um, but I definitely felt like when I was doing it around the UK and did it in Bristol and Leicester, suddenly I was so relaxed. And I almost feel like I'm just enjoying the show for the first time because you just sort of, and taking your time with it as well, like
Yeah.
uh, messing around a lot more with the audience. So that's what I'm looking forward to in Melbourne, really, because uh, yeah, the pressure's off.
That's amazing. And, so many comedians and no judgment whatsoever, I'd be the same. the pressure side, as you said, if you've now seen that it's, a successful show, you can just kind of let go. Whereas, some it can look like a lot of fun, but sometimes it can be really tough
Yeah.
because there's so many different things happening. But also from the stress side, when you're trying new material or whatever, a show doesn't go well, there's a lot of stress, which is what you're alluding to. You mentioned that you did gym today. Do you have any like things that you do to help alleviate the stress? For example, gym or anything?
No, I'll watch like really depressing things like war documentaries or like, yeah, like people sort of like starving to death. And I'll just think, well, it's not that bad.
That's hilarious. I've never heard of that before. That's great.
I mean, I've, I've developed a twitch. I sort of have this thing where I sort of have these weird twitches where I sort of say whoopsie quite a lot. I have one where I sort of, it's sort of developed over time. It
Yeah.
just used to be random words. Now it's sort of weirdly, I sort of say my own name. And I've developed this twitch because of like the amount of humiliating moments on stage. you you think about it afterwards, and I just go, oh, whoopsie, or say say my own name. And this has been something that's, yeah. I mean, I don't think that would have been something that would have happened to me if it wasn't for doing comedy.
Well, it's
I was
made you
actually
more resilient.
I was at the gym the other day with this guy who's like a friend of a friend, really. Um, we were in the showers afterwards, like separate cubicle. And then when I come back from the shower to the locker, he said, "Do you know there's someone in the gym shouting your name?" And I said, "Well." It's kind of a weird thing to explain, but that was actually me.
That's your way of processing the stress, just by going Luke, and then like you getting it all out.
Yeah,
I like
do you
it.
know, like I mean, everyone will have this when they think of an embarrassing thing, and they sort of like maybe like shiver or something. Mine's so
Yeah, you're like,
extreme,
oh,
and there's so
yeah.
many of them. It becomes like a whoopsie or a Luke.
I love that. Is that, and then do you still feel it, or is that like literally part of you, like removing that stress from your being, or is it more, oh, and then sweep it under the rug?
If it's really bad, and if it's like, or if it's happening in the moment, it happens all the time. Like I don't think it could be like really stupid things. Like I, I bought my girlfriend some gloves as a gift at Christmas, and um, but just before Christmas she had some gloves. She'd got some new gloves, and
Yeah.
I just found that so embarrassing. So so I just kept on saying whoopsie, and she was like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "Ah, I don't know, And then because I was like, "I can't give her gloves now. She just got some gloves. This is so embarrassing."
Oh,
Yeah, so
that
it's quite stupid stuff as well.
I think it's your way of like processing and getting it out and acknowledging it, but also you have to have huge
Yeah,
resilience to do what you've done. Otherwise, you can't do it.
yeah,
Talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
the pressure side, when you are doing your first directing for Nitpicker, what is the pressure like for something like that? Do you feel it is a different type of pressure?
I just I loved it so much, but I mean, obviously, you know, and I'd love to do more of it. But what was great about that, I had this DOP who was amazing, and he is this guy called Max Brill, and I mean, without him, this thing wouldn't have got made because he basically lived on a narrow boat for years, for like 10 years, and during that, and he wasn't paying much. So during that time, he just saved loads of money, spent it all on equipment, filming equipment. So he had
Yeah.
loads of incredible cameras. He also had the location because he was doing up his parents' house at the time. So we could use that as the location to film. And he was the DOP. So I went and met him, um, and we just sort of talked about the shots. So I felt, and I said to him, look, I don't know about the technical side um, at all, really. I know, you know, um, how I want a frame to sort of look in terms of getting the right sort of emotions and the feelings, but I couldn't give you the technical lingo. And so really what I want to be doing mainly is sort of focusing on the performance. And um, I mean, some people on the shoot may tell you differently. but I think I was all right. There was definitely a shot at the end where, time was, and we were just filming quite late at this stage. And to be fair, there was that one scene where I was a bit toxic. Yeah, maybe the pressure got to me, and I wasn't really articulating, I think, what I wanted, and it was taking so long to get this final shot. Um, but I don't know. I think I'm quite good in that situation because
Nice.
you know what, it's really interesting because it's such a different sort of pressure. Because the
Yeah.
pressure that you get normally from being a creative, like you'll be writing on spec a lot of the time, and that basically is a situation where you're sort of, you can wake up one day like, okay, what do I need to do today? Right, I've got to sort of just write some more development stuff or pitch this idea. And, sometimes it can be quite hard to sort of know exactly what to do and to where to put your energy in that day. Because there could be like,
Definitely.
and especially if it's stuff on spec, you're like, oh, this is just another thing that is like, may or may not go anywhere. So when you're directing, there's so much to do. There's so much to think about that it's quite a nice place to be, and it's quite a nice pressure to have because it's it's something very
I like
clear that
that.
you've got to do.
Yeah. That's
Um,
that's awesome. Yeah, no, sorry, go on.
no, that's just all I'm going to say. Really, I really loved it. I loved it so much. Yeah, yeah,
I love that. I also like that you learned from a potential, experience where you're like, I could have done this a bit better, and that's great. You're learning and doing something that you're very passionate about. And I've also heard from like big directors. I've had quite a few, maybe do like an iconic TV show, and they're like, I don't know the wide lens, the different whatever. I don't
yeah,
know them, but I
yeah,
know what I want it to look like. I know what I want my
yeah,
actors to do, and I know that my DP or my first assistant, whatever, I know that they've got that, but I'm gonna go
yeah,
and get that. And I think that's also really important because people can be deterred if they don't know the lingo. You can still
yeah.
do it. Yeah, good lesson.
And I did a very short course, like literally, I think a 2-week director's course, and that just gave me the confidence really to be like, basically what you're saying, that I can just be that sort of director that focuses mainly on the performance, uh, knows some basics about the other stuff, but yeah, lean on the DOPs and the other guys.
That's amazing. I'm glad that you did that course as well, empowered yourself. And that's also a bit of a theme as well, where you said you started out as you wanted to be purely an actor, and then you do stand up, which is, scared 99% of the planet from doing. Put yourself in these positions which can be terrifying. You've learnt resilience, and then you've done writing and all the directing and all of these things just to, show the world that there's more to you than meets the eye. And I think that's a great
Yes,
lesson, especially for creatives. We could just wait as an actor, for example, for the phone to ring, but you've done all of these things to empower yourself. It's a great lesson.
that's
Yeah.
very nice of you to say.
What we're going to do to wrap up the podcast is to do a quick rapid fire segment. So it's not really rapid. You can take your time to think about it, and I won't comment. Any questions for me, or are you ready to rumble?
So rapid fire, so let's be long answers or little answers.
Whatever you want. I don't think they've
Okay,
ever been rapid in over 300 episodes, so you can do what you want.
I'm going to be rapid.
Uh,
I'm going to be the first guy to be rapid.
okay, what's your favorite thing to do when you're not working?
I probably my favorite things to do when I'm not working.
They're hard.
Well, the problem is you sort of think I can just give you a really honest answer, but it just it seems so boring.
No, there's no boring. It's just like you, which builds up the
Yeah,
character, which is
yeah.
interesting. What was the
Um,
inverted commas
I like
boring?
many things. I mean, I go to this. I got a cinema membership, and I go to the cinema.
But that's what I
Um,
would. Yeah. I love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
almost exclusively on my own. I very rarely go with someone else. And yeah, I do love that. I mean, that's probably the most relaxing thing I do, actually. Yeah.
I would probably have the same answer. That's great. What brings the best creative content out of you?
Um, an idea, an idea that I'm excited to commit to, like, um, like with this show I'm taking to Edinburgh. As soon as I had that idea, I just thought it was such an obnoxious thing to do. But obviously I've crafted the show, and I believe I've sort of justified my decision to do it. But you get in, I'm not performing the show with myself. I'm playing a version of myself, a character. Um, as soon as I had this idea, so I'm trying to articulate the answer properly, but it's when I can see how I can commit to this idea to make it exciting, because I believe that that's sometimes where I may be unique, or not totally unique, but slightly more unique, where I'm willing to commit to something to a level where it will be really exciting.
That's great. I'm not going to comment on them, but that's great. If you could gain any skill in the world, what would it be and why?
I'd probably learn how to play. I'd probably learn. I'd I'd probably learn how to speak Japanese, so I can communicate with my girlfriend, because we don't understand. I've never really been able to speak to her. I don't. I don't really know much about her.
Is she Japanese?
Yeah, she's Japanese. Yeah, and I just like. Yeah, I just don't really know much about her. So it'd be great if I could speak Japanese so we could communicate.
That is that is a TV show in itself. Not being able to understand each other. That's hilarious.
Yeah, but but yeah,
What do go on?
she's not really Japanese.
I couldn't tell. So here's the thing. I couldn't tell if you were joking, but if I called you out on it, then imagine how bad that would have been. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I
But
was
in the
like,
edit, in the edit, can you not? Can we just leave it that she? I didn't have it in me to not tell you the truth. But in the edit, can we just pretend that I've said that?
okay, but then I'm just going to be like, ah, okay.
I
If
think
that's
it's quite funny. Yeah, I'd
okay,
love to be able to communicate with my girlfriend.
uh, but I don't know if you're looking at my face like, cool. Uh, um, okay, we'll do like the last three. Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so,
Try something different
or new?
or new. I thought you said different on you.
You're like
And
the
if
eighth person to hear that, and I don't know why, but that's on me.
honestly, you don't have to. You don't have to try anything different or new, because in the end, the things that you'll enjoy the most are probably just sort of eating, going to the pub, and sleeping. You can try new things if you want, but they won't give you any more satisfaction than things you already love.
True.
Is that a terrible answer?
No,
Let me give you a different answer, because I don't think I really meant that. No, genuinely, I think it's important to keep on trying new things. It's exhausting though. Some people try new things so often and can do so many. Like, do you know when you meet like a kid that can like play the piano and like cook really well? And I can't do both of those things. And I'm like, that's mad. Like, I've been here sort of 20 more years than you. I find that so depressing.
I find it inspiring seeing what people could do.
Oh, that's a much better attitude. That's a much better attitude.
I
No,
I think you're inspired in some way, but yeah, go on.
no, keep trying stuff. I mean, look, we have to, because our brains are becoming mush. Honestly, we are like, we're basically just not going to exist soon. Um, and I think trying new things is probably the answer. Um, yeah. I mean, I find as well, like my brain now, like if I go to learn something new, um, I mean, this is sort of embarrassing, but I touch on it in the show a little bit. I'm learning to drive now, and I passed my theory test about 5 years ago, and it was really easy. I remember thinking it's like so easy, but if you don't then learn to drive, it runs out after 2 years. So now I'm going to learn to drive again. and I booked my theory test and I failed. And I find that
Interesting.
mad because honestly, 5 years ago, it couldn't have been more easy. And I think we do not, we are really, something mad is happening to our brains.
There's
So
definitely
the
something
answer is,
happening to everyone's
yeah,
brains.
yeah.
You were
So
saying
we've
the
got,
answer is
the answer is, it's just push yourself to try new things. But also don't forget, you don't have to show anybody. Like, don't start learning a new instrument and then making people watch you because you're probably crap. And that's just, that's annoying for everybody.
yeah. No, that's great. I'm not going to comment on, but that's great because you can kind of learn and grow in silence as well. But one, congratulations for trying to drive. Like that can be pretty daunting and scaring as well. But also sometimes, like some of the tests, you can get like easy mode, super easy mode, and then like 1 in 10 is just like super hard. And also, you can probably get
Yeah.
in your head because you're like, oh no, it has to be. Can it be A? And then you're like,
Yeah.
no, it wouldn't be that easy. It has to be B. I get it. Sometimes,
I
like
know.
inverted commas, the easiest things can actually be so hard because we get it now.
Well, the first question was about horse. I was like, where's this question come from?
Horse.
Yeah, it was about horse. It was about like a horse on the road. But it was like, I've not, this wasn't part of my research. And the answers, you're like, well, it could be any of them. I don't know. Do you slap the horse on the bum or do you slap it around the face? I don't know. It's got to be one of them.
Well, that's amazing. And what this we'll do one more after this, but what has made you want to get into driving?
And well, I touch on it in the show a little bit. But I think just I live in London, so I genuinely don't need to drive. Mm. But I also think, um, there will be, my life will become something else at some point. I don't have kids, but if I did, I think it would be better if I could drive.
Fair. Last question before I ask how people can follow you and remind people about your show. What is the one question I should have asked you?
Mm. Um,
Could be anything you want to tie up or anything you want to bring up. No pressure.
One question you should have asked.
Yep.
How do we solve the conflict between Israel and Gaza?
uh, I'm
Because I
too
actually
scared
know
to
the
ask
answer.
you this.
Well, I won't
What's
tell you now. But
yeah.
well, no, you've missed your chance. That should have been question one. So now you'll never know.
Damn. Well, damn. So many. I apologize to all the innocent souls out there. But tune in for part 2, and we'll dive into that topic. We'll go in real in depth, pros and cons, the whole works. Awesome. Before we go, how can people follow you, keep up to date with you? The Melbourne Comedy Festival links are in the episode notes, and you also sound like you're going to be at the Sydney Comedy Festival as well. So we'll put that there
I'm
as
going to
well.
Sydney for a holiday, actually.
Oh, okay. So we're going to take that out. It's not there. How can people keep up to date with you?
I'm only on Instagram. That's it. So yeah, just Instagram, Mr. Luke McQueen. And that's it. See you in Melbourne.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I find you very inspiring and funny, and I'm excited for your shows. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. It was so nice speaking to you, man.
I love how Luke reflects on his time doing sketch comedy with his mates. It was a really great realization and a turning point when he realized the importance of staying authentic and staying true to his own sense of humor. Often in life, when something starts working or getting and receiving positive feedback, it's easy to get swept up in it. But if it doesn't genuinely resonate and if it doesn't light you up from within, it's hard to sustain. Because without that connection, the joy fades. And when the joy fades, so does the longevity. And by staying true to himself, Luke gives himself the freedom to really thrive in his own unique style of comedy, rather than trying to be someone else just to fit in. Another great takeaway from this chat was how Luke absorbed the powerful message from a comedy show from David Quirk, where he talks about forgiving your enemy. Luke had every right to feel frustrated when his show ended, but when he came face to face with the network commissioner, he had a choice. He could have reacted negatively and said something he might regret and potentially damage future relationships. Instead, he took a moment and he thanked him for the opportunity. I love this. It's a reminder that even in these disappointing moments, we still have control over how we can respond. And in that moment, Luke chose grace over bitterness and in turn was able to move past it. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. Better to fail in originality than to succeed in imitation. Herman Melville. Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy and life.